Hey everyone, welcome to the first ever Kentico Rocks Live. The episode's, I don't know, I guess it's episode 35, but who knows if that counts when you're doing a live thing. I'm joined today by a good friend of mine, Brenden Kehren. Brenden,
hey
say hi
guys,
everyone.
hey guys. Hey there.
Cool. We're learning something new today, trying to figure out how to handle this live streaming thing, but the plan is to talk about Kentico Xperience and answer some questions, talk maybe about why it's awesome to use the forum and QA system that Kentico Xperience has, bring some insight into how in the world Brenden actually manages to answer that many questions over the time that he has done it for so many years, and just generally spread some help and awareness to the Kentico community. So if you're watching out there, thank you for joining. If you're listening to the recorded episode, thank you for listening. But this is, again, a new experience for us, and I'm hoping that it's going to work pretty well. But Brenden, what's going on? How's the weather over your neck of woods these days?
Partly cloudy. It's really nice.
Good. A fine
Great
August
day
summer
today.
day. Good.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
I think the plan is to kind of just pretend like this is a normal during the day experience, and you're doing your work, and how do you do it actually? Let's start there. How do you actually do your job, plus provide all this help and support on the DevNet question and answer section?
So great question. This goes back to 2008 when I started working with Kentico. I started working on a couple projects and would go to the DevNet just for finding answers. Documentation was mediocre at that time, and getting into finding what to do for some of these things was kind of unheard of. Much out there. So fast forward to where I am now. I learned a lot from the support people who provided to me, and now they're supporting paying customers. So I'm out there helping people because they gave back to me, so I'm giving back to them. And it's just something that I can do in a short amount of time during the day. I'm sure you've been through it. You get a roadblock, you got to stop, take a break, go up. There's a couple of questions out there. Take a look, see if I can help them out quick, and it just works out. Kind of breaks up the monotony of staring at code all day, or writing up proposals, whatever it might be.
Right. Gotta love it working in Microsoft Word doing all those proposals, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I mean, you've been doing it for a long time, and in case you didn't know, there's actually a leaderboard system on the Kentico Xperience DevNet. You can see Brenden is number one. I'm not even going to scroll down to see how far down I am in that list, but he's been helping people for a very long time. So, and you probably know him if you're in the Kentico community as well. So let's get to it, though. Pretend we're going through our day, and I think as part of being an Xperience MVP, we feel like it's somewhat of our job to help out the community, and we keep an eye on the forums.
Definitely.
We keep an eye on the community Slack. If you're not in that, definitely check out our blogs on how to get there. I think the links are there. But Brenden, when you see the list of questions, what do you normally do first? Like, I know you have some secrets for how you actually filter this situation and kind of make it work.
Yeah. So what I typically look at is there's a couple things you can see right away when looking in the list. As you see on the screen here, the second question has a little Stack Overflow icon next to it. Typically, what that means there's an integration with Stack Overflow. So those questions that flag Kentico in Stack Overflow automatically brought over to Kentico in the DevNet here. So it's kind of nice to see those things. We look down a little bit further. Questions 3 and 4 are duplicates. Somebody didn't quite know that there's that integration with Stack Overflow and Xperience. So it's It's typically what I find when I see those is I'll go in and I'll post a link to one or the other, saying, hey, there's a duplicate over here. So if this one isn't ever answered, you'll see that maybe there's an answer over here on Stack Overflow, or there's something coming from the DevNet that's already out there that we can post over on Stack Overflow. But usually it just look through this list here and filter out, see if there's any unanswered.
Yeah. Well, let's do it. Actually, you know what? One thing we do want to point out to people is if you're doing this, the 2 questions that are the same thing, that means that you might have done something completely right, or there might be something up with Kentico's system. But basically, like Brenden was mentioned, this question is on Stack Overflow, and the minute you ask it on Stack Overflow, it actually will kind of generate that exact question on the DevNet forums. So I can see 2 different times, which means most likely someone actually asked this question twice. And, really, you don't need to do that. So there's a tip, right? If you're asking questions, ask it in one place, and that's all you need. But since I clicked this one, let's talk about this one a little bit, Brenden. Kentico 10 failing PCI scan for XXS vulnerabilities. The Lori here is trying to figure out how can we pass this? What's going on? And she's looking for recommendations. I'm somewhat familiar with these types of PCI scans. Usually it kind of comes down to updating your components. You got anything that jumps out to you, Brenden, on this one?
So I'm assuming that since it's in Kentico 10, they're most likely running a portal combination Portal Engine and ASPX. So there are some things that are limited to fixing unless you want to really jump deep into the bowels of some of the Kentico code that's there. For instance, there's some form controls. There's some things that just ASP.NET page that you can't remove. So you have to get creative and do some of those other things to handle those or fix those things more. The last PCI scan we came across, that was what we ended up having to deal with.
Yeah. So, that's one thing. Anytime you're posting a question, especially if it's an older version of Kentico Xperience, it's definitely helpful to know, are you in Portal or MVC, right?
Yeah, knowing that is pretty paramount when it comes to answering questions. That's if it's not obvious. If somebody's working in version 12, it's really not obvious Portal or MVC. So we will typically ask that'll be the first question. What are you working in?
Right.
In older versions, you can kind of assume. In versions 10 and older, it's typically Portal Engine or ASPX, and working in either is pretty close to the same.
Yeah. So, and again, also another thing that helps is kind of maybe a straighter example of is there a certain error that you're seeing at a certain URL? Because right now we can't really tell okay, where is it failing? Why is it failing? Executed with a 1 in the message box pop-up. I'm not sure I completely follow that either, but
yeah.
How do you? Normally, what do? You basically are asking for kind of a better description.
So typically I look at these with the support engineer in mind, right? A client comes to me and they say, hey, we have this issue, and I'm going to go and interrogate them and ask more questions, to try and get answers out of them, to try and troubleshoot further what's going on with this.
So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to say, hey, Portal MVC, where you're seeing this, can you give us some more detail? Then we could probably provide a better answer. And who knows? Maybe Lori will get an email when we click save here. Of course, we got to prove we're not a robot. and maybe she can reply during the time that we're online, and we can move on to the next one. Because I actually can't come up with anything straight up that just is like, yep, do this. This will fix it. I don't think we can do that yet.
I don't think so. I don't think so either.
Cool. All right. And hopefully they get that email notification. So I was just thinking about this, Brenden. It's funny. As we're doing this, I'll be able to type in and people will be able to see my screen, but they're not going to be able to see if you're typing in. So we might have to find some way to make sure you still get credit for fixing these issues if we are able to fix something. Let's check out the next one.
I'll follow up after everybody's asking more questions.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Let's check out the next one. So making widgets portable to a different project. Now this is a little different story. This is Kentico 12 MVC with the new development model with Xperience's page builder and using MVC-based widgets. This is a super interesting topic because actually this came up at BizStream this week with one of my developers. They wanted the same thing. I think the question comes down to how can we create reusable widgets that we can use on more than one project? And there are actually a couple ways to do this, but the other thing I know, you yourself have been working more on MVC these days, right? I think you told me last week, you're like, man, I'm really starting to love the fact of how MVC works with the experience sites that you're doing, right?
Yeah, it took about a year to come around and really understand how it all works and what it is. Coming from development for so long, but it's pretty awesome to work with. We just had this discussion here about 2 hours ago in the office here with reusable widgets. So it's definitely a need, and I don't have an answer for it. But I know that I'll be watching this.
Yeah. So it's an interesting point in technology with Kentico 12 because it uses MVC 5, not yet .NET Core. And in MVC 5, you definitely can provide a library or NuGet package to put all of your kind of code behind files and distribute it that way. But what it doesn't really do is give you a great way to dynamically compile and inject the views or the front end aspect of the widget or any JS code.
Right.
That luckily is changing with Xperience 13 and .NET Core. There are some options for using Razor component libraries, I believe. Not that this person is exactly asking for Kentico 13 stuff yet, but it's something that I think I would answer this with, you don't need to rewrite them all again. What I would say is there's some great examples of how to distribute widget code so that's reusable on the actual Xperience GitHub marketplace demonstrations that there are. So just because, again, I focus a lot more on the .NET Core side these days, and it's been a while since I've done that in MVC 5, but let's go check out the GitHub location for Kentico. And let's look at actually how they distribute, or they kind of mean to distribute, the open source widgets that are out there. And actually, sorry, I should have started at the marketplace, because that is going to have the examples that we're kind of looking for. So Kentico Xperience team redid the marketplace about, I don't know, what was that, about a year ago, I think?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah. And you can actually filter down to just MVC widgets for Kentico 12 and maybe even some for Kentico 11. And let's pick on Andre's widgets here. He's one of our fellow evangelists at Kentico. And let's take a look at his MVC widget. So again, the marketplace is where you can go find the open source community-driven widgets. But I think you can actually take from this some of the aspects of how they're packaged up and deployed to various projects, because that's the idea.
Right.
The idea is you can collect them all here, other people can find them, and there's actually a specific way to contribute with a project in GitHub and do pull requests, and then that ends up on the marketplace site. So this Lightbox gallery, in theory, you should be able to use in any Kentico 12 instance, Kentico Xperience. There are your standard files that you're going to have with a Mvc widget in the repo. And there's a README and installation. And basically, it's kind of like we were saying, like it's grab the packaged up C# code, the backend aspect of the Mvc widget. And you may have to do some manual moving of some of the front end things once you get those locations, because it's going to put it in one spot on your project. And the challenge with, like, we can't just make this a click once and just distribute it everywhere and it works perfectly, because we don't know how you structure your MVC5 project.
Exactly.
So the install of the NuGet will put the files in a default location. And if we go look at this MVC widget, you can see there's a NuGet package. There's a way to download it, all that kind of fun stuff. And we're actually already on the source, but basically you grab that NuGet package, you install it, and it's going to bring the files into your project that you need. And then actually what he's saying is, these files get into your structure in plain text or however you want to do it, and then you adjust them into that location. And in fact, I think there's some other ways to do it, but that's actually the simplest, most common one that I've seen, right? What about you, Brenden? Do you think that's the common way you've seen it?
Yeah, I think so. The packages that we've downloaded, it makes sense to do it this way because not all too commonly are you going to have the same exact view on one project versus another. So I like how that setup works. I want the main functionality back in the code behind. Let my view be I can intermingle it, change it up, different things I want to different sites that are out there. I think that was probably the biggest problem that I had to understand when I built one of our first widgets like this. I think I worked with fellow MVP Matt Neal, Trevor Fayas on that when we were at MVP Summit a year or two ago. We worked on that, and it was difficult. But once we figured out how the packaging process worked and how it was deployed, it made things much easier.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Man, I'm drawing a blank on. There's actually a repo that has the contribution guidelines for how to get it on the marketplace.
Oh yeah.
And possibly, maybe I just search for marketplace. There it is. All right. So this repository in GitHub is kind of meant to serve as kind of the, hey, how do you create a package and distribute it with a widget in it? So you can follow along. I mean, these instructions look slightly different than what I remember. But in here, I believe there is a document for how to handle that, unless I'm in the wrong place.
You're done. Contributing MD.
Yeah, but is it? That's the
right one.
Standard.
Oh yeah, that's the standard.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess we should have done a little bit more research on that. Hey, that could be another good podcast episode or blog post from one of us. All right. Well, we'll come back to it. But in general, I think the major strategy for maybe how to answer this is, yes, there is a way to make NuGet package deployments for MVC widgets in Kentico 12. And Brenden is actually trying to give me a super secret URL.
Yeah, I think I found the one here.
Yeah.
Yep.
My Google skills are, at the end of the day, not as good as the beginning of the day. And I totally blame that on CrossFit today. It was something else.
I didn't Google. I went right to the DevNet marketplace. It was way at the bottom button down there.
There you go. All right, perfect. So this is what we're looking for. So Kentico Xperience, the team, they want you to really kind of focus on having solid quality documentation around your widgets, structure, reusability, and this kind of lays out the policies for how to do that. So you configure the metadata around your widget in this method that they have documented. So the name of the widget, what it does, the URL to the thumbnail, where the source is, and the category, all that kind of good stuff, right? Pretty typical things if you're a developer. And once you have all those things in, it kind of basically gets into how to keep them updated over time, and mainly, basically, how to submit the PR to add your reusable widget to the marketplace feed or branch, depending on how you want to think of it, which then would get promoted up to the marketplace. But I would recommend creating them in this style because the naming convention matters, and then it would be something that you could easily reuse across projects by having some sort of standard. I wouldn't just kind of make it up differently every time, right?
So that's the benefit of using Kentico as your we'll call it your repo, your widget repo. Being able to not everybody's able to share those widgets publicly with one another due to NDAs or whatever it might be. In that case, you may create your own package library, a local library for your company or your business to do that stuff.
Right. And I don't think we have enough time to get into what's it take to really develop each one of those things. So
Probably not.
Sometimes I think it's as long as we can lead the people to the right place.
Right.
And I'm guessing this person doesn't exactly want every single instruction ever, but they're like, hey, can I do this? So I think there's still value in answering this question of, yeah.
I agree.
In fact, you can check out how MVC widgets are distributed in the Kentico marketplace. I guess Xperience marketplace would be more correct. And copy the mechanism for how to create new packages from that documentation. You could then even have a private NuGet feed for your organization if you would like to keep the widgets private for your various project needs. We should also be true, now to be honest, it's not perfect, and you may need to adjust the location of your views, JS and CS to match the project architecture. Who knows if I spelled that right? I'm actually a terrible speller, in case you couldn't tell already. But the majority of the work should be totally reusable.
Yeah, I think the difficult part is, or should be anyway, in the code behind. It should all be in your controller and other business logic for your view. So, or for your widget. So the view should be fairly simple. That's the whole idea behind this.
Yeah. The other thing I find myself doing over the years of answering questions on both of Stack Overflow and DevNet is a lot of it kind of comes down to knowing oh wait, is there a piece of documentation for this or not?
Yeah.
And pointing people to the right places in the documentation or the getting started guide or the GitHub repos. I feel like that does come down to a lot of the ways this works. One thing I have a challenge on is the fact that I always seem to find the not service pack documentation. I find the older documentation, and that's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But
that's a common issue.
Yeah.
I'll end up quoting or pasting in a wrong URL and it comes from version 10 or something like that, version 12.
Right. Now, on here, I would have expected widgets. No? Huh. Because I know this is documented, right?
Yeah. There's quite a bit about building widgets and
here we go, developing a widget MVC. Let's start with that. It's fun how much time I've spent over the years with the documentation. And you've probably spent twice as much as me. Let's see if it gets into deploying.
I don't know that it does. I've not seen anything that talks about that. But I know when Matt and I were working together on that video widget, it took some time to actually figure out the logic going on and why things were happening. And I'm kind of excited myself to get out of MVC5 and see what .NET Core is bringing to help some of this troublesome issues that we have packaging and redistributing items.
So storing files, initializing the scripts. Wow, I actually literally, because I wanted to point people to the official way to do it.
Yeah. Here it is.
Yeah. And the other thing I know, one other MVP was working on, Trevor. He has a base MVC widget project to start from, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we'll put that in the links afterwards because that might take some time to find. But let's finish this answer. Make sure we get this right. So,
typical day. This is it right here. Day in the life. Scroll moment. And
pretty much. I mean, how many browser tabs can you have open at once? Right. That's the plan.
And how many different browser windows for different tabs.
Yeah, because I think this person probably is asking for okay, what is the way to make the NuGet package itself?
Yeah.
And really, it's just like any other NuGet package. You make a project, you put the files in the folders you want, and you say with the .NET Core CLI new package. So that actually could be something we point them out to.
People don't realize this is developer's day.
Yeah.
You and Google find what you need.
Pretty much. Because there's no way I'm going to remember all these URLs.
Not at all.
Too many tabs. Well, I guess we could always ask the person too, if you are looking for more specific help on the creation of the NuGet package itself, just reply here, and I'm sure someone can point you in the right direction. And if we can't, then that would be a great blog post to make.
Oh, totally.
Cool. All right. I was actually hoping we might get a question or so during the session, but I don't see anything. I don't see anyone in the chat either. But we've got a couple people watching, so thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah, so the other thing you were telling me about, Brenden, is you usually basically hit this filter, right? You hit the only unanswered filter.
Yep.
And you look out for obviously questions that don't have any answers. But we don't want to answer the duplicate ones. Or you're saying you look for the answers with two? Go ahead, give your logic on what that was again.
So think about how the numbering system here works. Click on that one there, Brian, with three, or anyone with an odd number on it. If it's a conversation between the original poster and myself, I'm going to be the odd number, right? I'm going to be the number one answer. So if you take a look at this is working here. Jamie asked the question, then Aaron answered with what he thought an answer or a question to get more information. Jamie replied back. So simple dialogue, right? And if there's two in there, I know that somebody has replied to what I had initially asked, provided as an answer. It seems to work. Kind of helps me out. I know that there might be other MVPs out there answering questions too. It's been I can't so much rely on that anymore. A lot of people who've been on the Q&A helping out.
Right.
It's been great.
Yeah, and this one is interesting because I think this person is slightly confused between Portal and MVC, because you can't just say, "Hey, something worked in Portal, therefore it's going to just work in MVC," right? That's not going to happen. But I think your eyes got that covered. All right, I go back. I'm going to put my filter back on. And yeah,
having just one answer in there that hasn't been accepted as the right or wrong answer is kind of concerning too, because that either means that the person has asked the question. Somebody has either asked further clarification or provided an answer, right. And it hasn't really been confirmed whether or not it's been fixed, or they've gotten what they're looking for. So if you're asking questions and you actually find a solution, go ahead and provide that solution, whether or not somebody actually provided it to you in the Q&A here, or if you found it elsewhere. Provide a solution, and it will help others who've come across or who are essentially will come across the same issue that you're dealing with right now.
Yeah, I would say, like, this person's asking, how can I create a custom Kentico module from an Angular application?
Yeah.
And interesting choice, because custom modules are for the Kentico administrator interface customization, and that's web forms. I mean, you can do SPA/Angular apps inside of web forms pages, but I'm not sure why you'd want to, and Kentico has a really great interface for building modules already. But if you want to build anything on the outside of the site with Angular, by all means, I'd say that's a good idea. Because you're losing the power of all the built-in interface capabilities of a custom module in Kentico. Now, if it has to be really special and do really fancy things, I could maybe see getting into a little bit more advanced Angular app to do that inside of the interface. But I would be really sure that you need that level of customization for an admin tool, because again, after you upgrade to different versions of Kentico Xperience, there may be issues with that if you don't just use kind of standard Kentico custom module stuff. And you can do some really cool stuff with the Kentico custom modules, like all the grids are there, the filters, the paging, listing, and
you can do a lot of that without writing any code.
Yeah,
you can create all your CRUD activities for even having classes that relate to one another. Do all that stuff without writing any code, and UI in a matter of half a day for a pretty complex system. So although I see the original poster want to deal with the clunky Kentico UI, it's pretty powerful. And I think you and I can both agree. If we had to build a module in version 7, we probably would go out and try to use Angular then. But now it's much easier to use the Kentico UI.
Right. I don't want to get into too much opinion battling back and forth, but I'm going to back this up a little bit because.
Sure. Yeah, David has a pretty good point. You can simply use URLs and target those URLs wherever those URLs are hosted. It doesn't matter. But that's the simple way of using Angular to get it to work on your Kentico instance.
Going Angular as well. So I'm gonna throw that out there we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. Well, we hit 3 questions. I think that's pretty good. I think we gave some insight into, how and why and some reminders to people about answering questions and asking questions. Definitely version, portal versus MVC, details of the screenshot. That helps us help you quicker and faster and better. We still have not solved the mystery as to why in the world Brenden can actually answer so many of these questions so fast. But we definitely, appreciate all your help in the community there, Brenden, for doing all that awesome work.
Hey, welcome. I'm glad to help out.
Yeah. But with that, I think we'll end the stream for today because we're a little bit over time, and frankly, it's time for me to get home to some dinner. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a hungry person. So I hope those who watched enjoyed a little bit of the behind the scenes for answering questions. If this is a good way to do it, I could see maybe doing this more often if you're up for it, Brenden.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds great.
Cool. I'll also say this. So if anyone wants to get hold of you, Brenden, what's the best way to do that? Is it website, email, Twitter? How can people find you if they have other questions that they might want to ask outside of DevNet?
Actually, Twitter's pretty quick and easy. I have a few folks who reach out to me there quite a bit, and it works really well. Otherwise, go to DevNet, ask a question. I'll be out there. I'll make an answer. And if I don't, fellow MVPs, they'll be out there answering questions too. There's quite a few of them.
Well, I appreciate your time, and for those watching and listening, appreciate your time as well. Hope you have a good night. This has been Kentico Rocks Live, and we will talk to you all later.